Good afternoon. I'm John Bonifaz. I'm the president of Free Speech for People. In his historic I Have a Dream speech in August of 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke about a promissory note that had come back marked insufficient funds. Dr. King was speaking in part about the promise of political equality for all, a promise embedded in our Constitution, but yet to be fulfilled. When we challenge the rigged system of big money in politics, we must lift up that promise. For too long, we have viewed the constitutional questions surrounding our nation's campaign finance system solely through the First Amendment, focusing on the purported free speech rights of the wealthy. But there is another part of the Constitution that we must apply to the campaign finance question, the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. Through that lens, we can see that an exclusionary system, which is open only to the wealthy few and which plays an integral role in our elections, violates the equal protection rights of those locked out of the process. Two lines of Supreme Court rulings taken together make this case. First, the Supreme Court has made clear that wealth discrimination in our political process is prohibited under the Equal Protection Clause. In its 1966 decision in Harper v. Virginia Board of Elections, striking down the poll tax in Virginia's state elections, the court ruled a state violates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution whenever it makes the affluence of the voter or payment of any fee an electoral standard. Voter qualifications have no relation to wealth. 6 years later, in Bullock v. Carter, the court struck down a high candidate filing fee system in Texas on equal protection grounds, applying a similar analysis. We would ignore reality, the court ruled, were we not to recognize that this system falls with unequal weight on voters as well as candidates according to their economic status. In a second line of rulings, the court found state action in a system which has become part of the machinery for choosing officials, even if that system is not mandated by law. From 1927 to 1953, the court decided the white primary cases, each time invalidating an exclusionary electoral process which had blocked African American voters and candidates from equal and meaningful political participation. Today, we have a wealth primary. Like the white primary of the past, the wealth primary has become part of the machinery for choosing officials. Candidates who win the wealth primary, who outraise and outspend their opponents, almost invariably win election. And like the poll tax and high candidate filing fees of the past, the wealth primary is discriminatory based on economic status. The wealthiest few, less than 1% of the nation's population, contributes more than 80% of all campaign dollars. The vast majority of Americans cannot afford to make large campaign contributions and are blocked from participation in this process. What happens when we reframe the debate this way? What happens when we lift up the promise of political equality when confronting an electoral system dominated by big money? First, we broaden the movement. This is not only a question of corruption, as important as that is. This is also a fundamental equal protection question tied to prior and current voting rights and civil rights struggles. Second, we shift the focus on the constitutional rights at stake. This is not about the claimed rights of the wealthy few. This is about the rights of the 99%, the excluded, the locked out. And third, we propel a new fight in the courts for the promise of political equality for all, and a new fight in the country for a 28th Amendment to the Constitution to reclaim our democracy. The time has come to abolish the wealth primary. Like prior barriers to our right to vote, this barrier too must come down. Thank you.